And greetings, everybody. This is the Lexcia podcast with your girl, Siza, Nkosi, and my brother.
And this is Wesley Pepper.
Yeah, and this is episode 82. I missed you guys last week. I wasn't feeling well, but we had a great show, of course, with Sonia Bascard from Bascard Soweto String Ensemble. It was a dope episode. Big ups for that. And thanks again, my sister, for joining us. It was a interesting conversation, and I hope your concert, your celebration went well and it was well attended. Shout out to you guys, and yeah, shout out to Julius for putting it together as always.
Yeah, man, shout out to Julius Patson all the way from Harare. Thanks, my king, man. Like he's our producer. He's putting this whole gig together. And if you guys watched last week, you'll know that we had a music video. It was the first time we did that. Yeah, that's really cool, man, because he really shares our vision. So big up, my king. And remember, we're gonna be featuring a lot of that, more of that in the future, more mixed media, multimedia, should I say, and more interactive stuff. So lots to look forward to. And today's episode, Siza, do you want to introduce okay, let me just say that order. So today we feel it fitting to start today off with a tribute to the now late Don Mattera. And we're going to focus the first few minutes of today's episode just sharing a tribute. So my sister, do you want to take it from there?
For sure. Thanks, my brother. I mean, this episode is very special to me because we have a very special guest today, Abdul Milazi. I mean, he's a brother. He's also a poet. He's a journalist. He's a painter. He's a musician. He's a great, he was my mentor. He bought me my first guitar, guys. That one right there. I mean,
you got it.
Yeah, I still play sometimes, but yeah, thank you for joining us. This is such
you're most welcome. It's a pleasure and a privilege being here with you again. It's like old times, eh?
Yeah, it feels like old times, and I mean, I still have your copy.
Of the band. I know it's safe with you, so hey.
Yeah,
it's our copy.
Yeah. And he has sadly left us, and actually that's how we have you on the show today, because I saw your tribute on Facebook, A Shrine of Dreams, and I thought it is such a beautiful poem, beautiful tribute from a poet to a poet, and that's why I contacted you, and you're here today. So give thanks for your time. And
no, thank you. Eh?
So Abdul, I don't know, do you want to read the tribute? Because I mean, there's so much to say about Don Mattera. I mean, I met him, I think, about 3 times. I did a tribute show actually for him at the Zoo Lake in 2013 with Mahari and some other guys. We had a whole tribute for him, and then I met him at his home. And then I taught him, actually last year, I taught his short story in the English class, The Bushy is Good. Yeah, so, oh gosh, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to share your stories about him before we read A Shrine of Dreams? Abdul, if you can.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, with Ubra Don. Well, I don't know where to start, because when I heard of his passing, it hit me hard, and I was like, because there are times where we're out of. When I say we're out of touch, not out of touch, really out of touch, but we get caught up in our lives and we get busy. I think chasing a whole lot of things. And I thought, like, hey, now that he was older, so then now I was thinking, I think about 3 months ago when I said maybe I should go and visit him just to say hi. And then I'm like, I'm going to go. You procrastinate. And then something like this happens. And then you're like, maybe that's what the universe was telling you, like, go connect or go reconnect. But it's happened like that with a couple of people with me. So, but I just guess maybe that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. But with everyone that you've connected with, like, through the soul, they're always with you. So it's never a loss to me. I don't look at it like that. And I look at it as a celebration of the connection and the celebration of the person and the friendship and the love and the soul and everything. So yeah, so when I met him, I was 29 years old or 28. Yeah, I was 95. And like, I knew him, but I thought he didn't know me. But also, like, then I was surprised when he called me by name. So then I turned around and it's Don. It's like, you have that groupie moment. Like, oh my God, oh my God. So, and then like, all I could do at the time when he greeted me. So I was joining Sowetan anyway. If let me go back, I was joining Sowetan from the Star. And yeah, now at that time he was at the Star as a writer's coach. And then we met at the gate, on my first day at work. And so when I turned around, when he called my name and he said Abdullah, not Abdul, and people call me Abdul. And even my parents called me Abdul. So he said Abdullah. So I'm like, okay, who's this person? And I turn around and it's him. And then I'm like, oh, Mr. Mattera. So and he said, no, Mr. Mattera is my father. So I'm Don. So call me Brad Don. So, and then I recited 2 verses from Azani, from the Azani love song. That's all I could do. It just blurted it out and stuff. And then, the man that he is, he was he's got great humor, and which is, I don't know, it's beautiful. So he started reciting a stanza from one of the poems that I had submitted to Staff Rider way back when I was 15 years old. And then I was like, okay, but he was humoring me. Yeah. So and then from there, we just talked like we've known each other for years. And I don't know, he was another soul. He was another soul. But I guess he was just like you. Remember when we met?
I know.
Like same thing. The people you meet through the soul or your souls connect. And then the people you just meet. And like with him, it was the same as with you. See?
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's the soul that matters, man. And he had a beautiful soul. And he actually listened, because now the first time I met him at his home, I actually recited a poem. And he gave me beautiful feedback. He said, your work is important. Your work is beautiful. You should continue writing. And yeah. But yeah, Wes, do you have your story?
Yes, and Wes, maybe let's hear from Wesley.
Yeah, man. I met him as when I was still publishing. So it was the early 2000s. That time, Newtown was still popping with shout-out bookstores, and Baseline was still. So you remember the. So I think I met him at one of. I know I was in a few workshops with him, especially at Kenya College. A few where we spoke around publishing and sort of distribution and identity of colored people and stuff. So like Siza was saying, the man listened, which is a skill. Like we trying to build a culture of that on this podcast as well, of putting people and actually like listening to them, putting thinkers. So I always connected on that. And like there's one specific event I want to mention, because I was going through this and that with my life, and I was there with some people I was very cool with at that time. And like he was at the Urban Voices concert, man. I remember Muta Baruka closed the show, but Bradon went on first, and he killed it. He killed it. Like how he was probably, I know he was an elder back then too, and he didn't have that young spirit of all the other guys who came on before him. And he didn't have the energy of Mutabaruka, but he killed it. That thing always sat with me, man. That speaks a lot to your presence, how you to everything of a poet. And like I always, I came in on that platform and looking at poetry as a or as an industry. I was publishing at the time. And yeah, man, that was one of my most memorable moments. I still remember. I still remember the poem. It was a love poem that he shared, and I remember that last line because I think he ended off in Afrikaans, which is also like a strange language in baseline. I mean, not many of Afrikaans wasn't very well. If you just look at the poetry scene and so forth. So yeah, man, that was really cool, and it's a sad loss to the country. And I'm just glad that we can give him a fitting tribute on all of us on this platform. And I hope everyone, yeah. So if any of our listeners, because we are streaming and we are live at the moment, if anybody's looking at this, you can please add your comments to as being streamed off Siza and Nkosi's page. So it'll be cool to see if you can share any of your stories about Brought Down. And let's celebrate our elders, man. He's no longer with us. I also feel it's time for us to step up because we are not the old people. And we're living in a post-pandemic world, like things are completely crazy outside. And it's time for us to step up. We're living in an age now, it's 5G technology. We are communicating through this medium, through these new mediums. Our lives have changed, our behaviors have changed. And I think it's as much I say, like just like you're saying, Abdul, it's more of a celebration of his life as more as a mourning. But I also feel like we have a lot of work to do as artists in this country.
Yeah.
Yes. I think just to take from what you said and what Siza said as well, that I think taking the character of the man, the nurturing nature that he had, the listening that everyone that I've met who've come across Bradon, the first thing they say is he listens. So even though he was great, but he didn't see himself as great. So to him, he was just like a man, a father, and a father figure to most of us, I think to millions, even overseas, not just here. Like I've met people overseas, who wow, you know Don Mattera. So I'm like, no, I've had the privilege of meeting him and him mentoring me and living with him for a couple of years, seeing him every day, and the humility he had touched me and moved me, because he'd sit and then talk to you like you're a friend. And also me having grown up in an environment where youngsters were not supposed to talk about certain things with adults, and you basically were supposed to just stay there and not be heard, be seen and not be heard. But with Bradon, when he shared his life, he shared intimate parts of his life, and I was sitting there like, okay, how do I handle this? But inside, I'm like, but he's just open about everything. He talked about women in his life, overseas, whatever stuff, and I was sitting there like, okay. And then after a while, I think I got to understand that he was just a free spirit, and he never killed the child in him, even though he was an adult. And that's the biggest lesson I took from him, that don't kill the child in you, because the child in you is the innocence in all of us. So once you kill it, then you become this pretentious person who's trying to create an image or a fake image of yourself to the world. So, and people never get to know you. I think that's the biggest lesson I took from him. So, because he was just a free spirit, he was like a child and innocent. And also, he didn't pretend to be perfect. He didn't pretend that he never made mistakes. He owned his mistakes and as part of life. So It's not that when you make mistakes in life, then you're a bad person or you're what? Oh, no, suddenly there's something people are going to point out and saying, oh, no, but you're saying he's great, but he did X, Y, Z and stuff like that. He never hid anything from anyone. He just spoke about his life as only, he embraced his whole life as it was. And so that's what I learned, and that's what I do as well. To me, it's like, I don't pretend to be perfect because of him. So, and I don't want to be perfect. So I just want to be me. I just want to be a person, and then love, like, enjoy friendship, celebrate friendships, and just be, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I have to be remembered like that, you know. Abdul, thank you for sharing that. It was a beautiful reminder, you know, that we need to listen truly. And there's a lot of noise around us anyway, and just be kind towards each other and don't kill the child in you, you know. I think,
Yeah, also resonated with me. That don't kill
yeah,
the child in you.
don't kill the child in you. And you're right, Praton wrote about anything. That's why I'm going to read from Azan
Sure.
Love Song, Abdul's copy. I'm going to read Man to Man. Dear God, I sometimes wonder how strong you are. What awful cosmic tension throbs inside your restless brain? Why in the scheme of conception did you include pain? If we could meet on even terms, men to men, you stripped of power, I of fear. I'd lift my skirt and show you scars, wide as the moon, black as the stars. If only we could meet in the ghetto or the street, you stripped of the power of death, I of its fear. I'd go away from you, and you would cry to have me back. Perhaps I shall return to wipe your eyes, for we could not have a God that cries.
That was fire, my sister. Thanks, Siza, for that. I just want to give it just another, just prompt all our listeners, because we are streaming live, and this is the first time we're doing it. It's something we definitely want to do more often.
Yeah.
So if you're vibing with this, connect with us on Facebook, man. Yeah, drop any comments. That's much appreciated. And yeah, thanks, Siza. Is there? Yeah, Don Mattera was a massive, was a massive player, man. Yeah, thanks for that.
For sure. And can I ask you, Butch Abdul, to share that dream of Shai?
Oh, okay. Give me a moment. I think let's keep talking. I'm trying to open it on the side here.
Okay, no.
Okay. Okay.
Also, just this reminded me of the old times, Abdul. You know, poetry readings. You know, and reading.
Yeah, and we want to talk about that because, yeah, Siza, you were saying so like the other day about like how has that culture changed in this post-pandemic world? Because this is how we communicate now. At least we share through these mediums. And did it change for the better or for the worse? I mean, I think, yeah. What do you think? Is it change for the better or the worse? Because we've evolved with it. We're sharing these. We've shared a lot of very, very cool intimate moments with all our guests. And yeah, what's your?
I mean, I don't want to lie. I survived because of the internet during COVID. You know, we had a lot of these readings. I know Hear My Voice did a lot of, you know, online poetry shows, Wedding Sound, I think, you know, but a lot of poetry I consumed on this space. But I truly miss also the physical connection.
Yeah. This is like a warm connection with people.
And I feel like the poetry readings now are like shows all the time, you know. I miss that innocence, Nje, of reading your stupid poem or the one you're working on, you know, without fear of being, you know. And yeah, that's how I feel. I miss the poetry. Like we had them at South Africa. I mean, I played the guitar. I was happy to do that. I was fearless. You know, it was a beautiful space. It allowed for that. But now everything is a show, you know.
Yeah, true that. But I think it's like in everything, even beyond poetry. But right now we're talking poetry.
Yeah.
To me, poetry is emotional history. If I don't know if that makes sense. So because history is a recording of events in the world, or in life, basically. But poetry is a recording of our emotional attachment to those events. So basically, it's a piece of us, but we're still recording events, same as history. So that's why I call it emotional history. So sometimes I don't make sense to other people. They know, I'm like, no, we're still recording history, but now we're recording the emotional history, the soul history of the same events that are happening in the world and around us. It's how we connect to them, whether we hurt or whether we they give us joy. We record that joy, and then if we hurt, we record that hurt. We bleed onto the page, and share our tears. We bleed there, we cry, and we leave it there, and we walk away and continue living.
Oh, what a gift to the world, really, to be able to do that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I feel like, you know, poetry saves me all the time. Like, seriously, literally sometimes. Like, but
yeah. So see, when this one now is up, as like Don shed a tear when he read this, because I used to give him my poems to crit and to edit. So Ed used to tell me, you can't edit a poem. So I'm like, yeah, but like a story, like you can edit. Like he says, no, you can't edit a poem. You can just fix lines and whatever, how it flows, how it breaks, or where it should break, where emphasis should be, and highlighting your point, like, when you make it, and it's rhythm, like music, and like, where the beats end, where the beats start, what beats you cause. And then I said that I'm like looking at this, great man. And I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of it like that. So, and then he's like, if you broke that line, Matawa, it will have a much bigger impact than now where you've got it all like complete like that. Pause there, put a pause and then do that. I'm like, okay. And to me, like the way he writes is unpretentious. He reminded me more of William Shakespeare because he kept things simple in terms of language that he used, but the impact was emotional. It was the content of what he was saying that was impactful. It wasn't the words, the bombastic words, so you say, okay, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, so I should write over people's heads. So, but it's the power in the quality of the content, or the impact of the content of what it is saying, like painting emotions or painting tears in words or painting blood in words or painting anger in words. And that's what he taught me. So then let me go to this one. So which I didn't understand first why it made him cry, but I guess maybe in youth we don't get some things, and then as we grow older, now that I'm 50, I'm gonna turn 56 in September, so I'm an old man, officially. See, so now I understand. Now I understand. And I wrote this poem at the age of 28 in January 1998. So I called it A Shrine for Dreams. And we make shrines where we either remember, it's a remembrance of something, or we worshiping something. Then you create a shrine for that. So that is like that, this is a shrine for dreams. When the sun goes to sea, reflections of death is all I see. Yet you tell me that life is for living and that people are forgiving. I search for sands of compassion on the shores of dissolution. Tell me when the sun goes to sea, when the waters are at peace. Be silent with me that you may hear the footsteps of my heart as it moves in the shadows of this starless night. Tell me when the sun goes to sea, when the tide is high. In this abundance of water, I thirst to roam the open country, to comfort the rose as it whips with the dawn for the dying night. Tell me when the sun goes to sea, when silence speaks. Tell me when the sun goes to sea, for upon this rock, I lay my soul and my love, a shrine for shattered dreams. Thank you.
Wow. When the sun...
That was lovely, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was, moment where we search. We all go through it. All humans go through, through it. Maybe let me say most. So there's some people who just live and they don't care. But in life, we have moments where we question the stations where we are. We question who we are and who we should be, or we would like to be, I think more thinking, not what people expect you to be. Because remember, the whole world have expectations of us. But to me, I think the most important expectations in life are your own. Not what people, because remember, people have superficial and materialistic expectations of everyone. A child is born and immediately it's like, oh yeah, you should go to school, get an education, get a good job, and buy a car, buy a big house, buy an aeroplane, buy that. But we are not teaching ourselves or our children as well to value finding out who they are and who they would like to be, which is the most important thing than owning a car and owning a house and having 1 million friends and stuff. So to me, it's like the most important things in life are connections. And the first connection is connection with yourself. Because if you have not really connected with yourself, you cannot connect with other people, like truly connect. So you'd connect at a superficial level, like, it's my friend, it's my friend, it's my friend, hey, I've got this one, it's my friend. But true friendship is of more value to you. I'd rather have one friend than 1 million, just one.
Yeah.
But a true friend, a friend that you open with, and a friend that you grow with, and a friend that you can share the deeper, innermost musings of your soul.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah. Go on, Wes.
Yeah, Siza.
No, I mean, I feel like poets are prophets, I don't know. I just needed to hear that today. I needed to be reminded of that for my own like stuff, because it's heavy. You know, when you talk about our children, I mean, I was talking about this even the other time, because I can't get over the fact that children can die at a tavern, 22 of them. Like it's heavy. I don't know. It unsettles me a lot, maybe because I have daughters myself. It's hard to keep the hope for our children. And I mean, we try to create a poetry reading, you know, a session. I don't know how people feel about that. Do they still want to attend those? You know, because I don't know. There's a lot. There's a heaviness, man. People would rather go to a certain space, listen to a certain sound, and I don't know.
But yeah, man, I'd just like to come in here real quick, man. So just to hear Abdul, because I hear what you're saying, my brother, and I totally agree with you. And it's especially the fact that how Don Mattera told you, like, not to kill the child in you. That sort of a free spirited, like, you know, you don't really have. It's not really a rigid structure. It's more free-flowing structure. I think that's also really important for the process of making art, and we talk a lot of that on this platform as well. And my sister, as you were saying about these spaces, or rather, if I must summarize, like what we're saying is that these there's almost a need. If you look at this incident with, that happened in the tavern. There's many other, I mean, look what's happening in Europe as well, and now this war in Ukraine. Like, there's a real dark cloud practically over the entire world. And I think now creatives who's in touch with that part of their, I would say, their creative being, I guess, is more needed now than anything. I mean, all these other institutions has failed us over the past 3 years. And so like Abdul, like you were saying, like where poetry is as an emotionally, I think it's like, you know, it's our duty not just to document it, write about it, but also use it as a tool for healing. You know, because we definitely need a lot. And like just the last point on the difference between the virtual sessions and the actual sessions, I think both can exist in this world at the same time.
Yeah, but see, now what, like, you know, you just mentioned one part that is crucial, that is our obligation, if like, for lack of a better word, what you just mentioned, that we should use it for healing. Like, use poetry for healing. I think there you brought up a very, 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 very important point, which a lot of poets right now at, like, you know, different poetry platforms miss. I think a lot of people treat it like Hollywood, like it's for fame. So I want to be a poet because I want to be famous. And poets are prophets, like Siza said, but also poets are healers, like you said, Wesley. See, both poets are prophets and poets are healers. So if you are into poetry or the arts in general just to be famous, I think you're in the, like, wrong art or thing, because that's why you end up getting a whole lot of nonsense going on, both in music and in poetry, where you get someone who just rhymes, but they have nothing to say, but they're just rhyming. It's like, look at me, I've got skill, I can rhyme, I can do what, and kind of stuff. But then you're saying, okay, what is the message?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna sit here and say, I'm a child of the revolution, of the evolution, of the combustion, of the what, and then like, huh? Okay, dude, please. Oh.
Yeah, no, but people need to pay the artists as well. You know, we're just saying, like, you know, we need to be paid. Like, we need to buy.
There's a market for
everything. Buy the book.
And I don't think for artists to get paid, they need to dance. I don't think we understand the market. I don't think we understand the value of our art. And I don't think in some cases, and I'm generalizing here, so you can criticize me for that, but I don't think a lot of artists are in touch, really have a voice, have a saying that I'm making art for this thing. As we're saying, like, yeah, we all need to get paid and all of that, but that can't be the only reason we're doing this. If it is, then yeah, you can work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Our industry don't really need you. And we definitely don't want you on this podcast, on this platform. So we want to promote that type of thing, and I think like I just want to sort of add into this point I made earlier on. Like I really do think like artists are needed more in the world now. All of these leaders are clueless and directionless, and they are soulless to be fair. And yeah, I just think it's our turn, man. And we have platforms like this where we can reach more people and speak more directly to people and encourage people, like we call it like-minded, without excluding everybody, to pick up your pen, your brush, and the world is in need of healing.
Yeah.
True that. But I take Siza's point as well, and then also I take your point, and both points are valid. Like people don't value art, but I wouldn't say it's their fault. I think maybe largely it's our fault, because either we want to foster art onto uninterested people, but expect them to accept it with the value that we see. So maybe we need to keep exploring maybe how to like package it in a way that they get it, but voluntarily, not like forcing it into them. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of like to put it in a way that it will make sense, because what we tried, remember, Siza, what we tried to avoid with the poetry sessions that we had was attracting the wrong crowd. So, and that to me was uppermost in the mind. It's like, let's not get numbers, let's get quality, not quantity. Let's get quality of audience, because then you get people, then that type of food that you're giving is for them. But you cannot throw caviar at someone who wants pop or is used to pop and like, hey, what's this? And you can't throw pop to someone who doesn't like pop. So we tried, like in a ways, we used the poetry sessions that we ran used to be called Headline Act at first, and then they became More Fire. Poetry sessions. Yeah. So, sorry?
It's South Africa, just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So remember, we're not like, you joined me when we're in South Africa. So I started in Rosebank at a French restaurant, actually, and it was called Headline Act. That's where, Don Mattera was my main guest or the anchor of that event, the very first one, like in 2003. Wow. So at that time, we were called Headline Act. So, but like the whole reason, remember, like that we started that platform was because there were a whole lot of poetry circuits and poetry sessions around the country, but they were all about flossing and not content. So they're all about celebrity-ness. And because I used to go because I craved being with poets and feeding my soul and going home full. But then I get there and I get nothing. It's like when somebody's feeding you stones or sand and stuff. I'm like, so then what I realized then when I was like I was in Cape Town at that time, I realized that there were real or poets who were writing from the heart and from the soul, but they didn't want to go to those sessions because they were not, I wouldn't say comfortable with, but I think maybe yes, they were not comfortable with that space because that space was for showing off. It was not for really sharing like something. So then I thought, okay, let me start something where I'll get poets who don't call themselves poets. See, like I met you, an IT, like a technician. See, and then remember all the people, all the people that are attracted. Because remember when I started Headline Act, it was by invitation only. So, and even the audience, it was by invitation only. That's like a friend of friend, you were like, who really appreciates this type of stuff. And then I'm like, okay, where's like, invite your friends who really appreciate this. So then we kept the audience and the lineup quality because of that. And remember, with people who used to come to those sessions, I think not a single one of them actually called themselves poets. They were all working somewhere. Either others were salespeople, and others were engineers, others were what, and then people were like, oh, but what you got was quality because everyone was writing from the heart and from the soul. So, and that's why also, people enjoyed that.
And I mean, I also enjoyed Sunday World at some point because when you were the editor at Sunday World, you had a poetry page on a tabloid newspaper. Like, I thought that was really dripping. But because for me, I mean, it gave me confidence in my writing because, we worked on the poems before publishing them. And, it was a good page. It was a really good page. That was brave.
Yeah, no, but that page, was opposed by my bosses, like before I introduced it. Yeah. So my bosses and the other editors of the other publications were laughing at the idea when I launched it. So it's like, okay, poetry page and what, and kind of stuff. And then to me, I said, well, as long as I'm editor here, so I'm not going to go by what? Other editors' opinions or like the boss's thingy. I'm like, I'll launch it. If it doesn't fly, I kill it. But, in life, you try something, you have an idea, try it out. If it doesn't work out, go back, rethink it, relaunch it differently, repackage it and launch it differently. But to me, what I wanted with that, because people were saying, no, I'm indulging myself. But for me, I said there are a whole lot of people out there and school children who love poetry, and imagine if their poems would be on a national newspaper, what confidence that would give them. A 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, showing his or her mother or a friend, like, look, like my poem, and his name is there, the poem is there. So to me, that's why I did it for. I did it so that it gives hope and it gives confidence to those aspiring to be scribes, and which is why it wasn't for famous people.
Could you just expand a bit on that, because that's beautiful, my brother, man. So who sent you poetry, and did you ever receive any feedback? So say, for example, you published some 14-year-old or whatnot. Was there ever feedback from? Did some of these writers eventually end up becoming full-time writers or so on and so on?
Oh yeah, no, there are lots. Siza is one of them. Yeah, no, there were lots, and now people became established. They followed their own path and whatever, and others are not writing anymore, but they still kind of tell me that, you know, but that page you had. Yeah. But feedback at the time when it was happening, I used to get letters from high school kids. And because what it was open, I just gave an email address and like send your poems through to this email address. And it was my job to sift through them like every week. Like, you know, then I'll go through them, pick, like, because I could only publish like 4 at a time. So I restricted people to length for layout purposes. So yeah, then it was 4 poems like in a week. And then my job, like, you know, I'll come there and like, I'm gonna sift through that. And also I used to make time to respond to everyone who sent a poem. If it wasn't right yet, then I will send, I wouldn't criticize and say, hey, that was crap and what. Then I'll say, please, if you can, find this book and read this book and then what, and do that, and compare and see what, like, you know, how these people like capture like what they get, because people used to just like, now, you know, when you start, we all started like that, because when I read poems that I wrote when I was 13 and I look at them, I'm like, that wasn't a poem. It was just lines, like, you know, and my thoughts, like a diary kind of thingy. So therefore, I never killed, like, you know, people's dreams or aspirations, because we all start somewhere and we all have to start somewhere. And of course, even if you're a painter, your first painting or your first drawing is gonna be crap. But to me, it's not crap because it's your beginning. I think that's how you look at it. I think to me, it's your beginning. And that's what I tell people, even now with painting, someone, oh, you know, I've tried this. I'm like, no, the more you, like, you know, you do it, the better you get. The progress comes as you repeatedly continue, but don't start something or do something with criticism. So you can't start like, or write your first poem, but you want it to sound like Don Mattera's. You're being unreasonable with yourself, right? So, and you're being unfair to yourself.
Yeah.
So, Don Mattera, I'm sure even his first poem, if he wrote it at school, didn't sound like his poems that we're reading now. So, and that's the other lesson, remember that I said earlier, that I learned from Don. He accepted everything and just helped to point you in the right direction in how you can be better. So, and you won't be better instantly because you are not instant noodles. So, like, you know, you have to keep at it because it's the passion and the love that actually makes you better. Because it's they're not giving up. And then you keep going and you get better, and you get better. So we shouldn't discourage people, because I saw in most of those poetry sessions that I avoided, people used to destroy people. Like, you know, an aspiring poet goes on stage, recites their poems, and then they get booed, and then people tell them, and then to me, I'm like, what are we doing? What is this? What do you want to achieve? You can't kill that person. Maybe that person could be like, you know, could become the world's greatest or one of the world's greatest poets, but then they'll stop because you killed them. Like, you know, on that stage, when they're there, you destroyed their soul. And you made them afraid. You turned them into victims where now they are afraid to keep writing or to share with others. Because if they don't share with others, they don't grow. That's how we grow. Because if I share my stuff with you, you'll enjoy it and what and kind of stuff. You know what? It reminds me of a poem or a piece I read, like, you know, kind of stuff and what. I'm like, okay. Then I go and like, so do you still have that piece or where can I find it? And then I go and read that. like, because my work reminded you of that. Now I go and read that. So I learn from a piece that now you've shared with me.
Yeah.
See, and then that's where growth happens.
And thank you, Abdul, for showing the love, on behalf of everybody who enjoyed poetry on Sundays in the Sunday world and just the lives that you've touched. And, we give thanks for the love. That's how we grow as a Black community. We take care of each other. We build each other. And my brother, speaking of which, I know you're a painter. I mean, you gave me this painting as a gift. So you're also a writer and you do stuff, man. How do people get a hold of you, maybe, Wes? Yeah? We're good?
Yeah. How do and let me just add on there, my brother. Can you just before you that just explain to us what are you doing right now? And I'm sure there's other writers that's listening to this or will listen to this, because this episode will go live on we'll publish it on YouTube on Friday, on iTunes, Spotify, and all the other platforms. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure one of those writers that contributed to the Sunday World might possibly listen to this. How do they get in touch with you, and what are you busy with right now? And yeah.
Right now I'm doing if you talk in terms of careers, so I'm retired already, or retired, yeah. but retired from the corporate world, but I'm painting right now, which is my other love. I love art in total.
Yeah.
So I'm painting, making some music, and I'm helping a couple of youngsters who are musicians. One of them is Lesson, and he's grown. I've been mentoring him since 2015, and now he's a well-established rapper, and his skill is fire. So we walk this journey with him as well. So, and then I help them record as well, just for them to understand the studio requirements, techniques, composing and stuff, just for them. So, but what I'm doing now what I've always wanted to do, just helping youngsters grow in whatever passions they've developed. And I don't know. The rest,
wow, that's great.
I just drink. Have my beer or whiskey or whatever kind of stuff, and paint, and then sleep.
But that's a life. That's the life. I don't think that's the best.
That's what I do these days. And then soon I'm gonna be farming.
Abdul.
I'm gonna be farming chickens for eggs. Yeah, chickens for eggs.
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important. This land is ours. We need to use it right and make it work for us.
Yeah, but to me, I'm happy that you took the baiting and ran with it. Remember, I used to bug you about that. So, and remember when I went to Pietermaritzburg, I'm like, Siza, you were supposed to continue with this, kind of stuff. So, because what I didn't want to know, or I didn't want happening, was that you guys that we kind of started more fire with, you were thinking that you coming to Abdul's show. It was never Abdul's show. Mm. So it was our show, never mind. See? So I wanted you guys to get that we continue. It's like a train. People get on, get off, get on, get off, get on, get off. But the train keeps moving and it's full, it's empty, it's full, it's half empty, it's full. That's how it should be. So that's why I'm happy now, you and Wesley. So you continuing that. And I'm always here, if you need me. So, and I'll always be there with helping with whatever, needs to be done.
Hey, we need an Apple MacBook. Abdul, we need an Apple MacBook. We need another mic.
You know, now when you say that, you remember that one night at the bonfire session with the late Lesego.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to remember that time, like, you know, all we had was a guitar amp and a cheap mic that I bought for 300 rands. And then suddenly she was complaining about the quality of the mic and whatever kind of stuff. But you get somebody, hey, you know, so to us, what's important is poetry. Like, if you're complaining about the quality of the poetry, then I listen. But if you're complaining about the quality of the mic, then please buy us one.
Yeah, then
like
buy
a better
one. Or go
buy us
without.
a better one.
Yeah.
Go acoustic. There's ways around it. My brother, thanks a lot, man. I think he hit the nail on the head there. It's actually been great, man. To all our listeners, like, if you want to get hold of Abdul, you'll give his details right towards the end. That's really great. Like, that's a life, man. That's the life. You sort of made a living of helping, and now sort of in, you know, the latter part, like, you continuing with the legacy. That's massive, my king, and big up to that. And I'm glad we had you on here. I think like Siza said in the beginning of the episode, she kind of needed to hear you say a few things, and I think the same resonates with me too. And just to all the listeners, man, we are still live, and please try to interact with this episode. We will appreciate that. And we also have some really interesting guests coming up also in the future. We're also talking to some more painters. Actually, another healer, a friend of ours based in Jersey. We're actually supposed to record it yesterday, but there's that heat wave in the UK, and it's just all complicated there. And we have some other, with some hip hop artists also on the line, and lots of cool content coming on the Lexcia podcast. And my sister, Siza, do you have something to say?
Oh, no, just thanks again, Abdul. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and liking and supporting us. We really feel the love, and we're sending it right back. Love you, man. It's Abdul Milazi on Facebook and all the media platforms. And as always, Siza Nkosi on all those platforms, and Wesley Paper everywhere. Siyabonga for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, salute. And we'll see you guys. We'll talk to you guys in a week's time.
For sure. Bye.
Well, cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me.